I don't know whether to steal Dave's line or not. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, the works. Welcome back to AI. No, it doesn't stand for artificial intelligence. It doesn't stand, sadly, for Alexander Isak. It stands for Anfield Index. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. I'm filling in again for Dave because he's not here anymore. He just doesn't seem to care anymore. He's just not taken part. And yeah, but he will be back. He will be back at some point. I know everyone misses Dave, but yes, I'm filling in once again for him on the weekend to go over all the latest Liverpool news. Dave, I hope you know I'm joking. It's fine. I'm just a bit of a wind-up. But yes, plenty has gone on. It's been a very tumultuous, I suppose is the right word. It's been a very busy 48 hours for Liverpool in terms of incomings, in terms of outgoings. There's been so much stuff going on. And yeah, there's plenty to discuss. We've got breaking news in terms of players who are going to be entering the club, players that we all know we want to arrive at the club in the next couple of days or so, players who are set to be leaving. It's been a chaotic few days for Liverpool, to say the least. And I think it's something that we're not used to. We're not used to these incredibly busy transfer windows anymore. 2018-19, maybe 22-23, the Szoboszlai, Endo, McAllister, Gravenberch window. But it just feels so different. The names we're being linked with, like even them, no disrespect meant to anyone. We got Alex McAllister, we got Endo, who I think was virtual unknown. Gravenberch, Bayern Munich. At the time, Bayern Munich reject, we've turned him into something phenomenal. And Dominic Szoboszlai, who we'd heard bits and bobs of, but we'd never seen, we'd never thought he'd be like a key starter for us. This transfer window, we're being linked to the likes of Alexander Isak, Rodrigo, Hugo Ekitike, countless big name players being linked to Liverpool this summer because we're back. We're on top of the Premier League. We are the champions of England. We are the greatest club in the history of English football. So we have to be linked with the biggest names in the world. That's just it's a poor side effect, so to speak, of being the best. You get linked to every player. Some of them are factual, some of them aren't. It's very much when we were linked to Kylian Mbappe. It's very much when we were getting linked to Jude Bellingham. There's been a history of Liverpool Football Club being linked to big name players that just do not come through. The Isak stuff still isn't going away. We're going to touch on that today, despite the fact that Hugo Ekitike. Now, it's not been agreed. The deal's not been 100% confirmed. Liverpool have not made the official bid to Eintracht Frankfurt. They've just reached an agreement between themselves and Hugo Ekitike for a 6-year contract, and he only wants to join us. Negotiations between Frankfurt and Liverpool are ongoing. Now, this isn't exactly huge breaking news. We knew this was going to be the case. We knew that Ekitike was keen on a move to England. We knew that he was keen on a move to Liverpool, essentially. And you know what? This is a transfer that if you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said, not 100% certain. I'm not sold on a Hugo Ekitike. I'm not sold on what he can bring to this team. It feels very much like a project, a 2-3 year down the line type of player that we're going to see the best of him. Looking back and doing my research and going well into the depths of Hugo Ekitike's career, his recent form, my opinion has flipped 180. I am now fully on board of Hugo Ekitike getting the best out of this Liverpool team. And that's not because, we're getting him, so you just have to deal with it. This is because he does offer something majorly. He contributes to this team. He's got a skill set that will benefit the remainder of this team, and that's exactly what we're going to go into today. Let me see if I can share the screen because I found a really, really interesting article earlier on. So, this is discussing the key strengths of Hugo Ekitike. So, let me just see if I can. During Jurgen Klopp's final season in charge of Liverpool, many of his side's best opportunities, 9, came through Darwin Núñez, who missed 27 big chances across the campaign. That's not exactly breaking news. Núñez had a habit of missing. We know all this. That figure was the second most of any player in the division, but in 24-25, current Reds boss Arne Slot utilised a system that funneled chances to his wide players. This is something that we've seen time and time again. I did a video on my own channel where I was saying that I think Roberto Firmino and Arne Slot would have thrived because Slot doesn't want an out-and-out number 9 whose sole role is to get in behind, find space, play between the defenders, play ahead of the lines. He wants someone who's going to come deep and contribute to the wide players. He wants someone who's able to play with the ball as well as getting on the end of the ball. And Hugo Ekitike, as we're going to discover in a moment, is that player. In fact, while strikers Nunez and Diogo Jota only scored a combined 11 league goals last season, their combined XG tally of 13.7 was significantly lower than the 21.6 tally they managed the season before. That's because they're not going to be getting into as much space. They're not there to just run in behind to receive the ball. They are meant to contribute to the overall play of the rest of the squad. They're meant to provide for the likes of Diaz and Salah and Gakpo and Chiesa when he got like 2 minutes on the pitch here and there. Their role is not to be the central goal scorer. We showed we've got Salah for that. Their role is to come deep, support midfield, overload it, and then on transition, get forward and provide the ball off to others who are more capable of scoring. And they did that in spite of themselves. No, this isn't to Jota as such. This is more so to Darwin Nunez. Darwin Nunez, we saw, was someone who, while he was capable at finishing, while he was capable of being someone good in the air, he was not capable of being that attacker who could come, receive the ball and distribute it. That's not his play style, despite the fact that he put up the most switches of any Liverpool player. The most switches of his Liverpool career last season. I think he was averaging 0.5 a match, which isn't big, but it's more than he'd managed in any other campaign of his career. Slot has spoken of his preference. Let me just see if I can scroll up so that my fat head's not blocking it. Slot has spoken about his preference for his centre forward to be comfortable facilitating for others, as we've just discussed, and it's perhaps not surprising that he's opted to deploy Luis Diaz in a false nine role for large periods of his title-winning season. Considering that talisman Mohamed Salah looks set to stay at Anfield for 2 years at least, the Merseysiders next summer number 9 will have to be comfortable dropping deep to collect the ball, as well as combining with teammates such as Vert in pockets of space. He needs to be good at receiving it as well as running with it. He needs to be capable of getting on the end of it and finishing, but also contributing. It's not enough to just have an out-and-out striker. No one has that out-and-out striker nowadays. Even if you look at Alexander Isak, his passing numbers, his progressive passes, his through balls, his goal-creating actions, he is a key player, not just in terms of his finishing ability, but in terms of what he can offer to the team. And Ekitike falls in that same ilk, despite the fact that he's the frame that he is. He's quite tall, he's quite lanky. You wouldn't expect him to be good on the ball. Ekitike would represent a clear upgrade on the ball for his passing accuracy of 75.5% in the Bundesliga last season, better than both Jota on 69.9 and Nunez on 70.9. The 23-year-old would also significantly impact when progressing play, considering he averaged 15.1 touches in the middle third on a per 90 basis, whereas Jota and Nunez averaged 14.9 and 9.7 per 90. Now, this is because Slot knew that if he deployed Nunez deep, nothing would come of it. He had to keep him high up the pitch. He would press and press, but his aim wasn't to win the ball to distribute. It was just to win the ball because he runs. That's what Darwin Nunez is best at. He's a presser. He's aggressive. Jota was much more capable of playing in that false nine role. He was much more composed, able to distribute, pick it up deep. He could still press, but he was someone who was more than capable of playing in that number 9 role. Nunez is not. And that's why that statistic, the touches one, is so prevalent, because Nunez had to stay forward. Darwin Nunez had to stay high up the pitch. His average position saw that. And in the matches where he did come deep, i.e. Real Madrid, where he deployed a deeper position on the pitch than Dominic Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones at the time, nothing came of it, because that's not what he's good at. The 23-year-old would also significantly impact, as I say, 51.1 touches. He also played 44 key passes for the Eagles last season, while the 2 Liverpool strikers played just 11 key passes, each on 22, which is half of what Ekitike managed on his own. It's also noted that the Frenchman managed to produce 12 assists in all competition, a tally only better than the Liverpool squad by Mohamed Salah. More assists, more key passes, more touches of the ball. It's clear that we're picking up someone who's not only someone who's capable of trying to score goals, but he's a team player, and we need that up top, because it feels like we were getting goals last season despite Darwin Nunez, not because of him, and that's not a major disrespect. It's just a fact. We've needed a number 9, but we don't need a number 9 in the traditional sense. We need a contributor. In regard to his dribbling ability, Ekitike is adept at carrying the ball over large distances, with his 851 carries in all competitions in 2024-25, considerably more than Darwin Nunez's 295 and Jota's 313. Again, it leans into the whole narrative of he comes deep, he gets the ball, he runs with it. And again, I've said it about 10 times already, we need that. We need that Roberto Firmino style player. Slot would love a Roberto Firmino in this system. He would adore having someone with those capabilities, the passing range, that ability to press but do so meaningfully, come deep, get the ball, contribute to midfield, who's also able to run in behind, play between defenders, play off the shoulder of defenders. That's Ekitike. That's what Hugo Ekitike can bring to this team. How good is he in the final third? The forward proved that he can be dangerous in front of goal, having scored 22 times in all competitions last term, 4 more than Cody Gakpo and 5 more than Luis Diaz. No other player managed to produce more shots in the Bundesliga on 115, ironically for City, and his ability to generate shooting opportunities should be seen as a positive, which is superb. Getting on the end of things, taking shots, the most in the Bundesliga, while also contributing to the rest of the team. However, this is where the problems do creep in, and this is where the project narrative of Hugo Ekitike does spill over. The sort of, will he just become another Darwin Núñez? He's criticised for his ability, getting only 15 Bundesliga goals, falling short of his XG of 21.6. Take what you want about XG. I take it with a pinch of salt. I just think it's a stat that people like to use to sound a little bit more clever. I don't truly think that I'm not a big XG supporter, to be honest, but I can understand that there is a worry of, while he's getting all these chances, 15 goals for 115 shots, that's 100 that you've missed. It's not great, and that's where there is concerns. And given Liverpool fans have often been frustrated by Núñez's erratic finishing in front of goal, some supporters are concerned that the Reds could be about to sign a similarly inconsistent star. In his defence, though, some of his underperformance can be attributed to the fact he missed 2 penalties, and these misses somewhat skews overall finishing data. He's capable of converting big chances. Salah missed 24 big chances last season, while Ekitike missed 16, but he's proven inefficient when trying to score low probability efforts. So, look, he's always going to be someone who's a bit erratic. He's a young kid. He's 23 years old, playing in the Bundesliga. He's getting chances galore, as you saw earlier on 115. He's going to miss big chances. But like I said there, Salah's missed 24 and he's missed 16. But there is a gulf in quality between the Premier League and the Bundesliga. So how that's going to translate over, I'm not certain, but I don't think it's something of major concern. You've got to consider that at Frankfurt, he was making a lot of this happen himself. He was the focal point. He was someone who, it was very much, get the ball to Hugo, he'll make things happen. At Liverpool, he's not going to have to do that. He's going to have much more support, much more talented players around him, no disrespect to Frankfurt, but he's going to have Salah, he's going to have Gakpo, he's going to have Diaz, potentially, maybe not. Florian Wirtz is going to be behind him. Frimpong's going to be creating chances. Kerkez, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch. He's got so much around him that he's not going to be as relied upon to be the focal point. Every chance was going to him because he was the big finisher. He was the star of the team. He's not going to have to do that at Liverpool. So I think this is going to decrease massively. If they can consistently provide him with chances inside the penalty area, then he'll almost certainly be more ruthless than Núñez. He's a willing runner, and his selflessness, as we said before, without the ball, could be important in maximising the creativity of Wirtz and Salah. The striker's pace up front could be vital when considering Salah and Wirtz are both predominantly ball-to-feet players, and signing someone capable of stretching the last line will be important. And that's why Luis Diaz, when he was in that number 9 role last season, had so much success, because he was someone who could run behind. He was quick, as opposed to Salah, who has lost a bit of pace, as opposed to Gakpo, who's not the fastest player in the world. Núñez, for all that he missed chances, when you were struggling, you could put him on and he'd run into space. He'd find an opportunity. It wasn't that him putting himself in the right position was the problem. It was his finishing ability. I'm not giving up on Isak. Ring him again and try and persuade him again. We'll get into that shortly, actually. We're just on Ekitiké at the moment. And sign Haaland. I'm all right. I'm not, he gets goals, but that's because every single bit of play around him has to rotate around his ability to stand there like a tree trunk and just kick it at goal. And I don't particularly want that. I want someone who's going to contribute to the team, not someone who's going to make the whole team change to suit how he wants to play. I don't know. It might just be me. It might be me being a bit biased, a bit tribalistic, I suppose, in that regard. But, it is what it is. But yeah, I just from that article then, you can see he's Hugo Ekitike, all the worries about him, all the stresses of a Hugo Ekitike in terms of what can he contribute to this team, what is he going to offer us. We're not just signing a big lump up top who's quick. We're signing someone who's going to help others. He's quick on the turn. He's great at playing on the blind side of defenders. He can play against the back three, a back four. The Bundesliga has a nice mix of both. He's also good in the air, good on the ball, as you can see here. So I'll get it up on the screen now. It's not just his progressive passes that he receives. He's in the top 27% of the Bundesliga on 7.55, which is him running it behind. It's progressive carries. It's progressive passes. It's him picking up the ball and running with it for others. That's a big, big part of his play. As I say, shots on target 1.55 from 4 shots. It's good. 38.6%. That's fairly low, but that goes into the big chances that we missed earlier on. His XG, we've touched on already. Not a huge factor for me. Pass completion rate, 75.5, as we touched on earlier. Top 8% for Bundesliga forwards. Short, he's got a short pass completion rate of 82.8, which is in the top 12% of the Bundesliga. That's huge for a striker who's considered just a big lanky lump in the box. He's not that, as he's proven time and time again. Assists, top 16%, top 12% for key passes, once again contributing to other players. 23% for passes into the penalty area. This is a project player, of course, and a shot creating actions as well, as in the top 16%. But it's a project player who fits the mold. It's someone who is capable of helping Salah. Salah isn't going to have to carry the workload because Nunez is there stinking up the joint. Again, no disrespect. This is someone Salah's going to thrive next to, someone who's going to operate alongside him. And just want to get those stats up again because I didn't realise that I wasn't actually screening them. There we go. Yeah, as I was saying, where are we? Yeah, progressive carries, top 6%, progressive passes received, great at running with the ball and getting on the end of it. The shots we've already touched on. Short pass completion rate, he's in the top 12% in the Bundesliga, top 25% for medium passes. His key passes in the top 12%, passes into the penalty area, top 23% in the Bundesliga. You know, his shot creating actions is in the top 16% again. This is an exciting prospect, and while I understand that this is someone who is quite nervous, someone who we're all a little bit cautious about because he's a big, expensive acquisition, someone who's been trusted with following in the likes of Fowler and Owen and Rush and Suarez and Torres and Firmino, someone that is meant to be coming in and being a focal point of our attack for years to come. 6-year contract is what's being discussed, by the way. I understand there's worries, but at the same time, I think if Slot's staying, I think if we've got those players around him to help nurture him, the style of play that we operate with, and someone who's able to come deep as a false nine while being a good finisher of the ball, who can do both, midfield to box type player, I don't see many major concerns. I see someone who is capable in this Liverpool team, and he is a project. I'm not going to deter from that. That's not my main worry. It is the big chances missed that can sort of sway people into thinking that he might be someone who we're not 100% sold on. I think Liverpool have gone in for the Newcastle player again yesterday. I think it would be reported soon. We'll get into that shortly. There is a lot of discussion over whether we're still going to get Isak alongside Hugo Ekitike. I gave Newcastle fans grief for it, but I'm not going to be opposed to it happens. I'm a bit worried about our defence. We urgently need a centre-back. We absolutely do, mate. And I think, given now that Crystal Palace's situation's been a bit more cleared up about this whole Europa League, Conference League situation, I think they were waiting for that to be resolved. Now, I think once we get the striker deal done, once the Diaz deal and Nunez deals are sort of under the rug, I think that's when we go in for a Mark Gahey. I think that's when we go in for a Lukeba or a Baleba. I think there's a lot of different players that we're being linked with. One of them will be coming through. I am convinced it's going to be Mark Gahey. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I just think he'd be someone who's suited to playing our style of play. Very good in the air, good on the ball. And he's someone who's in the final year of his contract. We've got Konate's issues coming up soon, and he's capable of coming in, fitting straight into the first team and looking composed. What is his goal rate against the top teams in Germany? So from last season, in the Bundesliga alone, Hugo Ekitike registered 15 goals, as we touched on before. These are the teams that he scored against: Hoffenheim, Bayern Munich. He got 2 against Bochum, 1 against Stuttgart, 1 against Heidenheim, 1 against Augsburg, 1 against Freiburg, 1 against Dortmund, 2 against Hoffenheim, 1 against Borussia Mönchengladbach, 1 against Bayer Leverkusen, another against Heidenheim, and 1 against RB Leipzig. So you've got Leipzig, Dortmund, Bayern, and Bayer Leverkusen, of course. He's capable of getting goals against those big teams. This isn't someone who's just there to farm goals against the lower down teams in the division. He's capable. Bayern, he scored against. Bayer Leverkusen, that's first and second from last season. And one of them is the season before, the invincible Bayer Leverkusen. So his goal rate against the top teams in Germany is terrific. In the Europa League as well, he scored against Victoria Pleasant, he scored against Ferencváros, he scored against Ajax, he scored against Tottenham, that's really big. He scored against Borussia Mönchengladbach again in the DFB Pokal. I'm curious, what did he do in 23-24? Because I think that was when he was at, he was still at Frankfurt. 1 against Augsburg, 1 against Bayern Munich, 1 against Bayer Leverkusen, and 1 against RB Leipzig. So he scored 4 goals the season before. 3 of them came against RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich, and Bayer Leverkusen. The invincible Bayer Leverkusen, second place Bayern Munich, and RB Leipzig, who, I'm excited. I'm excited by it, and great. I like the player. I do too, and I hope other people do as well. If Diaz does leave, mate, who would you take? Rodrigo or Anthony Gordon? I would take Rodrigo. I would absolutely take Rodrigo. And I suppose we'll get into that section now because Luis Diaz is a big talking point. Let me just share it onto my screen. Is that the one? That's the one. So, first off, I will absolutely take a Rodrigo. I will happily take a Rodrigo. We're talking about we bring in big players now in terms of big first teamers who have been there, done it, won that, got the t-shirt, and in like an Alexander Isak, and a Florian Wirtz, and a Kerkez, and a Frimpong. We're talking about a multiple-time Champions League winner, Rodrigo, who's won it twice. Won the La Liga title. We're talking about one of the best progressive ball-playing wingers in world football. He's so capable at having a go at goal, but it's his creative actions for others. He's someone who you can trust with either staying forward, winning the ball and taking on a player, or someone who you can trust to come deep and win the ball back. He is so versatile in being able to play as a centre-forward in the same way that Luis Diaz is. But he's a great passer. He's terrific at progressing the ball forward. And I think that's what we need. I'll see if I can find Rodrigo's stats now. And as I say, we say constantly, we need winners. We need people who are ready-made. This is a 24-year-old left winger for Real Madrid who's won the Champions League, who's been a key component in their past few seasons. So yeah, I'll share it up onto my screen now. I'll cancel this one for now. And let me see if I can get Rodrigo, because I'll switch on Rodrigo, I suppose. Progressive carries, top 14%. This is across Europe's top 5 leagues, and the Champions League, and the Europa Conference League, and the Europa League. Top 14% for progressive carries, top 30% for progressive passes, top 11% for progressive passes received, passes completed in the top 8%, passes attempted, pass completion success rate, passes short, passes medium. Progressive passes, I'd say, is in top 30%, passes attempted. He's not your out-and-out goal-scoring left winger. He's good on the ball. His touches, 14%. He is a successful take-on percentage of 47.2%, 75, and that's a 2.15 successful take-ons for 4.56 per 90. Progressive carries into the final third is in the top 2%. Carries into the penalty area, top 17%. Passes received, progressive passes received. He's someone who will get the ball and create for others. And you think about Hugo Ekitike, this player who we're bringing in right now, and the impetus is going to be score goals, contribute, but score goals. Imagine having Rodrigo, who have just shown there has so many talents for getting the ball into the box, for getting into the final third, for running with it and being positive on the ball. Imagine him providing for Hugo Ekitike. I think it'll be absolutely mental. There's other comments coming in. I'll get to them shortly. We just need to start getting on to I suppose, the big one. Let me just see if I can find it again. because I've completely... There we go. Luis Diaz. So Luis Diaz maintains his plan to leave Liverpool. Bayern set to bid again very soon. Bayern want to improve their proposal after a €67 million bid was rejected, as they keep negotiating also for Walt made. Barcelona remain in contact with Lucho's agents, while Bayern can spend more. He will not go to Barcelona. They can't afford it. Even if they do sign him, they can't register him, and he doesn't want that. He's not interested in it. Bayern coming back, €67 million is... Look, I was very sceptical of us rejecting the bid, but Bayern just keep coming back with more and more and more. And again, I need to stop questioning the way of which we do things in terms of player sales sometimes. The contract situations are a mess, but in terms of getting the most out of players, this is huge. My initial argument was, if we're keeping Luis Diaz, we need to offer him a new contract. But then, looking on it, you think about it rationally. Are we going to offer a 29-year-old a new 3-year deal on increased wages when he's only going to decrease in price? No. We're not going to increase his wage bill. We're not going to gain any more value from him. That's just not going to happen. And he's also someone who, as I say, he'll be 32 by the time that deal's done. 33 maybe. That's not how we operate. Mo Salah and Van Dijk broke the mould of those type of players. If we're getting over €70 million for Luis Diaz, that's massive. And we've still got Cody Gakpo. We've got Rio Ngamoa, who's on his way up through the ascendancy. We've also got Chiesa, who I understand people are a bit hit and miss over whether or not he'll stay or whether they want him to. We saw him against Preston. He can play out on that left-hand side if you need him to. This fee would cover 2/3, 3/4 of Rodrigo's fee alone. Not to mention we've still got Nunez going. And if Diaz is adamant that he wants to leave, you can't just keep him here. I don't see the point. And to an extent, I understand why we are asking for so much more money from Bayern Munich. And it's a really interesting thing that I didn't realise until just before. This is Fabrizio Romano reporting back in 2022, January the 30th, 2022. So this is when we signed Luis Diaz. Liverpool will pay a €40 million fee in 3 years for Luis Diaz, so we've just been paying that off now, and a €20 million add-on package in 5 years. So in 2 years' time, that'll be. This is why we're ramping up the price so much, because we haven't even paid off Luis Diaz yet. Luis Diaz has not been paid off. We still owe money. We still owe €20 million for Luis Diaz. So in actuality, if you take into account the 40 million fee that we paid in 3 years' time, the 20 million on top of it, that's 60 million. This is why we're ramping up the price for Luis Diaz, because he's a player that we haven't even fully paid off. And I fully respect that this is the way of which we've gone. We had to. If we can get €75 million for him, I will consider that a good deal. €15 million profit. We can replace him with Rodrigo, someone who's much younger, better at progressing the ball, better at running with it. Diaz, for all that he's contributed, he does go through those big purple patches of form. Last season, he got 5 goal contributions in his first 6 matches, then had 3 matches off, got 1 assist, had 3 matches off, got 2 contributions in 2 matches, and then was missing for 6. We can't have that. We need someone who's going to contribute consistently, because we've been in an era in which Darwin Nunez was there missing goals for fun. Jota was very injury prone. Salah was carrying a lot of the load himself at points in time, and Diaz, while he did contribute massively towards the end of the season, massively towards the start of the season, he has those big patches where you're missing from him. You're not getting goals, you're not getting assists. He ran himself into a corner at points. He didn't look as comfortable on the ball at moments in our slot system. And I think if we can sell him for a fee of €70 million, €75 million, pay off that 20 million that's owed to Porto, that'll be paying off the full €60 million for Diaz, and we then have some spare to move with. For me, it's a no-brainer. This is why we're keeping hold of him. This is why we're making the effort to sell him for the fee in which we are. And it's something it's got to be done. We're very shrewd. He still contributes. From what I understand at Bayern, he's going to be on around 200 to 220,000 pounds a week, or euros even. Now, one thing that does confuse me is they're bringing in Luis Diaz for immediate success. They're offering him a 3-year deal. And you'd think if you're doing that, if you're bringing in such a big name value player, someone who is going to contribute massively to your first team straight away, you're going to need to give him big wages. You're going to need to give him big money because he's not someone who's going to be rested. He's not someone who's going to have to develop. He's ready to go now. He's a Premier League winning left winger who's been in Champions League finals, who's contributed massively to us over the past few years. But in actuality, if you get up Bayern Munich's wages, so this is Bayern Munich's top earners per week. Currently, you've got Harry Kane, who's on €480,000 a week. Mental. Manuel Neuer, fine. He's earned that right. Thomas Muller's obviously just departed. Leroy Sané, €384,000 a week. Serge Gnabry, €362,000 a week. Kingsley Coman, €326,000 a week. And Luis Diaz is only being offered €250,000, €250,000. Can't quite remember off the top of my head, but nowhere near the amount that these guys are being offered. Now, I understand they've been in the team for a while. I fully get that. But from what we understand, Sané wants to depart, or he has already. I don't really know exactly off the top of my head. Serge Gnabry's not long. Kingsley Coman's always been linked for move away. If Luis Diaz is being brought in to immediately replace, there we go. It's €280,000, £220,000 a week. If you're bringing in Diaz to come in and immediately replace one of these lads who's someone who's your first teamer, who's going to propel you to success, he should be earning the same amount as a Kingsley Coman or a Serge Gnabry or a Leroy Sané was. Why is he not? Why is he earning still low amount? And I understand this is pot kettle black. We've given him ridiculously low wages for a good few years now, but we've been shrewd with it. And I understand that's not the right mindset you should have when you care about these players in the way of which we do. But we haven't had to increase his wages. We haven't had to spend astronomical amounts on him year in, year out. We're going to sell him for a higher fee than people thought we'd ever get for a 29-year-old with 2 years left on his deal. We're going to be paying off the 60 million that we owe to Porto. But he's going to Bayern, and he's not even earning too much more. In actuality, so how much was it said then? That's €280,000. It's only just more than Michael Olise. Like, I just feel bad for him. He should be getting much more than that, in all honesty. Isak is not for sale. We'll see. Because it's not just us who want him. I don't think any other club would sell Diaz for more than 60 million. We're mental at selling. We are. Jordan Ibe, Dominic Solanke. The biggest one that springs out to me is we got the same amount for Christian Benteke that we spent on him after that season at us. We are mental with negotiating, and there was no better club at doing it. There just is not. Their wages are crazy. They absolutely are. But I suppose when you're the biggest club in the Bundesliga, you've got the money. It's like Celtic, you're not going to compete with them. They sold St. Maximin to a Saudi club sharing the same owner. This is what we'll get onto shortly with Alexander Isak. Erbil was told very clearly what the club's higher-ups expect from him, player sales and a reduction of the wage bill, so that top transfers like that of Florian Wirtz can be realised. Look, the business that we've done cannot be called into question. Like, we've smashed it out the park this summer, and I think that we had to. We've just won the Premier League, and last time we won the Premier League, we signed a backup left back in Tsimikas, Diogo Jota, no issue, and Thiago Alcantara, who at the time there was already massive question marks over his injury record at Bayern, and it didn't work out, and he was stressful to watch at points because he was injured. This summer we had to go out and we had to strengthen. This isn't a Jurgen Klopp team, and this isn't disrespect at all to Arne Slot, but Jurgen Klopp is, you could give him chicken crap and he'd turn it into chicken salad. He was capable of doing that. We don't know if Arne Slot's able to necessarily do that. He might need the ready-made players to come in. We needed the ready-made players to come in. We needed to make a statement window and say, look, we've won it, but this isn't like last time where we're going to be thrifty and try and negotiate cheap deals to sort of just keep things ticking along. We're going for more. And signing an Ekitike, going for a Rodrigo, doing all this incredible stuff had to be done. It's huge for us as a club that we maintain our standards, that we keep pushing for the best players in Europe. Rodrigo wants to stay at Madrid. I only want players at Liverpool that want to be there. His wages are already over 200k, so we'll expect at least 250k. I don't know. I don't know if he necessarily wants to stay at Madrid. I understand there were people saying he does, there's people saying he doesn't, but he's not going to dislodge Vinicius Jr., he's not going to dislodge Mbappe. And 250k, he's going to be expensive, but so was Thiago Alcantara. 250k a week for someone who's won 2 Champions Leagues, is a very young, talented player who's wanted by a lot of clubs in Europe. You have to spend the big wages on big players. Florian Wirtz, don't get me wrong, he's on a lower wage compared to a lot of these players, but he's going to have bonuses. He's going to have signing on deals. He's going to have goal bonuses or assist bonuses, something like that are going to bump the wage up. Rodrigo could be the same. We don't know. We're just making the assumption that because he's a Real Madrid winger, he's going to be on 300k a week. He might not necessarily. There might be other ways in which we can work around it, like we've done with Florian Wirtz, for example. We're very shrewd when it comes to weekly wage negotiations, and I think Rodrigo would be another one who falls into that bracket of, he's a big name player, he's contributed massively to Real Madrid's team in recent years, but we can get him on a good deal, and I fully expect that if he was to come to us, we wouldn't be offering him 250k a week. It'd equal that after bonuses and add-ons, but I don't think it's going to be outright. Didn't get the money for Kelleher, we should have. No, I agree with that. We could have got much, much more for Kelleher. Slot did some work with Gravy though, but I think that was always there. Yeah, look, this isn't me saying that about Slot. It's not me saying that he can't get great things out of players who are average or poor for. Definitely can. Like you said, Gravenberch is a massive one. I'd argue he improved Alexis McAllister. Maybe Szoboszlai at points as well. Like Salah, we saw what happened with him. I just think that's a bit more system-based, whereas if Klopp, like we saw what he did with Henderson, we saw what he did with James Milner, we saw what he did with Salah and Mane and Firmino. He turned these players that were average or talented into world beaters, into top quality players. Will Slot be able to do that? Possibly. But like we saw with Jarrell Quansah, if you don't fit the mould, it doesn't matter if you're young and I can nurture you, you are gone. Klopp would not have sold Quansah. Slot did. Slot wants people who are ready to come in and make an immediate impact. That's why we're being linked to Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, Kerkez, Frimpong, Ekitike, people who are ready to go, and that's a good thing. That's what we absolutely need to be doing. If Lucho leaves, we need Rodrigo or someone in that level to replace him. I don't see any other better left winger available right now. Like, I don't want Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon's main strength is crossing the ball. You don't need him in to do that when you've got a Kerkez or a Robertson. You don't need someone whose main responsibility is crossing. Anthony Gordon's talented, but I don't want him anywhere near the team personally. He's not for me. I'd rather take a Matoma over an Anthony Gordon. Like, I'd rather take a Fofana, a Rodrigo. Rodrigo's number one target, of course. It's a World Cup year. Rodrigo's going to want to play. Absolutely. It's a huge, huge thing. I don't know why we didn't try for Kvaratskhelia in January. I think he'd have made the impact for us in the Champions League. Possibly, but PSG can offer much more money than we can. We've seen that time and time again. I think that move was just a bit of a pipe dream. And like you said, we talk about wages. Kvaratskhelia is on big money now at PSG. I would have loved to have seen it. But maybe it was just a rumour mill. Maybe it was just people in brief discussion because of the PSG game. I don't know, but yeah, it is what it is. I would have loved him. I think he's top quality, but fees possibly. I don't particularly know why we didn't. Maybe we weren't in a position to be going out in January and trying to sign X, Y, and Z. We've waited. We've saved up our pocket money. We've got to summer, and now we've got all this money to spend and work with. So I'm not complaining too much, but. And I will get to the rest of the comments. They're currently flying in. There is, I suppose, big news on Alexander Isak. I'm not 100% sure. Alexander Isak said to be open to a move to the Saudi Pro League, with Al Hilal portedly in the mix to sign the goalkeeper from Newcastle. You know what? I kind of feel sorry for Newcastle, but at the same time, this is smart by them, in a sense. They haven't sold to us someone who they're viewing as a rival, because Newcastle's ambitions to push for the Premier League and trophies now. They've won the Carabao Cup. They're not going to want to sell to us. If it's a case of, well, we need to get money in to comply with PSR, if it's a case of we need to bring in a certain level of cash that we can spend, you're going to get more from Saudi than you would have done for us. Saudi will pay the £150 million that they are after. We're not going to pay that. Al Hilal can pay that. And I think that they're going to get massive fees. He's going to be on a massive wage. He's too good to go to the Saudi League, though. He's far too good to be wasting his career in the Saudi Pro League. The only way Isak leaves Newcastle this year is if he pushes himself and pulls the Gyökeres, which I don't think he will. I don't think there's any sort of animosity to Newcastle. He's very loved there. You see it by all accounts. He absolutely adores the club. He's just won their first trophy in 60 years. He's a big player in the way in which they operate. I can't see him forcing the issue as such. It's not something that I particularly see. I think if Isak does want to make the move, if he is someone who does want the issue, he's going to have to force it himself. But I just don't see it. I think he'll have said to Newcastle, look, the move's there, I'm interested. And they would have said, no, you've got a contract. Fine. But he's not going to kick up a stink about it. This Saudi link is fake news. Saudi clubs cannot buy players from a Saudi-owned club without the Premier League investigating. Again, it's true. I don't know. This is probably just pure whirlwind. It's just something to discuss, really. Are they really in risk of PSR? I read they can give them higher wages and they'd be in the PSR sensitive zone. No, they're not, but they have spent a lot in the past few summers in terms of players coming in. So let me just see if I can get the list up. Newcastle aren't at risk of anything. They're not like City or Chelsea or United as such. They're not like at any kind of major risk of, oh God, we're going to have to really clamp down on what we're spending here. So this summer so far, this is in euros because it's transfer marked, 61.4 million euros. The summer before, they actually ended up in a profit because they sold 89.55. They spent 68.2. The summer before, they spent 148 million euros. That was the window where they got Tonali and Barnes and Livramento. They sold 44.6. The summer before that, they spent 185 million. They sold only 14 million. Summer before that, they spent 130 million. They sold 0. Didn't make any money that summer before. Summer before that, they spent 38.7. Sold 780k, and that was on one player. So while they're not necessarily at risk, while they're not in any sort of immediate danger to the PSR rules, they are also in need of more centre-back reinforcements. Sven Botman's currently very injury-prone. Shah's not getting any younger. Dan Burns the same. They need centre-backs. They also need a rotation option for what appears to be Johan Visa coming in. Because if they lose Alexander Isak, they need another striker. If they don't, absolutely fine. There's positions on the pitch that need strengthening for them. And I just think if you sell Isak for around 140 million to Saudi, there's so much money to work with there, and there's so much other areas of the pitch that they need to strengthen. There were reports saying that apparently, let me see if I can find where I've put them because I think I've misplaced. Oh no, that's the one. That's the one. And it's Indy as well. And Indy's word's been like gospel this summer. Liverpool won't end Alexander Isak interest even if Hugo Ekitike was to sign. They've told Isak that they'll be waiting for him once he or Newcastle have made the decision on the next steps. Isak's desire was to join Liverpool, and we want to act with respect and class. Now, this could just be absolute fabrication, but I don't think Indy's really set us wrong this summer, given all the information he's been giving us and how well everything sort of worked out. I ripped Newcastle because I was saying there's no way they're going to sign Ekitike and Isak because they're not going to do rotation between them. They're not going to change the system. And I'd have to say we're not going to do the same. Let's be completely honest here. We need backups. But again, Ekitike is not going to be happy as a backup to Alexander Isak. We're not going to change the system in which we play. I've heard people say we may do a 4-2-4. Possible. Don't get me wrong. It could be McAllister and Gravenberch in midfield. Someone drops deeper. Who that's going to be, though, I don't know. Because left wing's going to be Gakpo or Rodrigo if we sign him. And when you've got Ekitike and Isak up top, you've got Salah on the right. Which of them's going to drop deep? Maybe Ekitike. I'm not really too sure. I just don't see it. I don't see a world in which it happens. It's the same thing that I said to Newcastle about this whole situation. It's the same thing to us. Ekitike is not going to be brought in for £86 million to be a rotation with Isak. It's more likely we sign an Ekitike and then we get like a Mateta, a cheaper, different option of player who we can bring on every now and then when we absolutely need to. Brentford won't sell Visa now that Mbeumo's gone, surely. It depends. There might be new manager, new era. They might be looking to rebuild. Maybe it doesn't fit the system. Maybe they just need as much money as possible. And if Newcastle are coming in, who can offer you more wages, a high fee, he's going to go there and he's going to play. I mean, he's going to play at Brentford. He'll probably play less at Newcastle, but he's going to get much more wages. Maybe they know Isak's going to be going. That's why they're so desperate to bring someone in. I don't know. You know, it's not a bad option for Visa, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went. We have Gakpo. Don't need Gordon. Is similar. I would go for Rodgers. Can play across front and more comfortable across the line. I'd be fine with Morgan Rodgers. I think he'd be very capable in this team. The reports linking him with us a few months ago, they've sort of teetered off. I know United were interested in Chelsea. Yeah, that's what I mean. We don't need an Anthony Gordon whose main strength is crossing the ball. We've got enough players to do that. And we don't cross the ball anywhere near as much as we did under Klopp, but that's not the way in which we operate. We saw that with Trent. He was stifled at points. We don't need an Anthony Gordon in this team. It's not for me personally. I know Grizz is a big fan, but I'm just not. They need to increase turnover, and I think selling Isak long term would help them become a consistent top four side before challenging for major honours. But I get why they want to keep him. We were in the same boat with Suarez. If you've got these big expensive commodities, and it can go one of two ways. It can go the way of, like we did with Suarez, the way Tottenham did with Bale, where you sell this big expensive player that you're fighting to hold on to, and it goes to pot because you bring in the wrong players, i.e. Ricky Lambert, a Mario Balotelli, a Lazar Markovic, you know, that kind of transfer window. Or you can have the one when we sold Coutinho and we brought in Van Dijk, we brought in Alisson, we brought in Fabinho, we brought in all these top quality players to plug up the holes in the team where you could see there were problems. If they spend the money well, if they sell Isak for a high fee, spend the money in viable areas of the pitch where they need to be spent, bring in more centre-back reinforcements to replace the aging back line, bring in another striker, bring in another midfielder to challenge Joelinton, Tonali and Guimaraes. Great. If they go out and spend the money frivolously on parts of the pitch they don't need, i.e. another winger, maybe another fullback, then it's poor. It just depends how you spend the money. If Newcastle want to challenge, they need lots of money. Selling Isak for that high fee could be what they need to strengthen the club in other areas of the pitch. Isak can only carry them so far. They rely so heavily on their midfield. They need to add more depth and strengthen, because as soon as they got injuries, I think it was 2 seasons ago, that's when they struggled and that's when they dipped off. And yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed from their perspective. Selling Isak would sort Newcastle out with the holes in their squad at the minute, but I don't think any fans would be happy with them selling their best player. And I agree. I don't. If you're Newcastle fans, I think they'd rather keep Isak and see what happens. Maybe he can push them forward. Maybe he can progress them. Maybe he can just continue to drag them through the mud like he has at time and time again. But you have to break a few eggs to make an omelette. You've got to sell these players if they want to move. Whether they sell them this summer or not is regardless. He will leave next summer, 100%. Someone is going to come in for him. Maybe Gyökeres doesn't work at Arsenal. Maybe Ekitike doesn't work at us, or we decide that we do still want to sign Isak. Maybe Saudi come in with a huge offer. Maybe Barca get their finances in check to replace Lewandowski. There's so many viable options for him going forward, because he could go to any team in Europe that he wants and he'd be top tier. He's not going to be there forever. He's not going to be a Newcastle player beyond next summer. So you can either go to one of these teams now, get the money, recoup the fee for him and have a lot to spend, or you can just sort of persevere with it and hope that things come good. But as soon as they get injuries, Newcastle, like we saw 2 years ago, they will struggle. There's areas of that team that need plugging, and selling Isak, while I'm pushing for it because I want Alexander Isak, it makes sense long term, because he's not going to be here for another 2 years. He's just not. But I don't know. You think we'll see youth on benches look good pre-season? I think we'll see Rio and Gamoa. I know there's talks of him getting a new contract. I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Doak was to stick around. There's a lot of young players in this team. James McConnell's another one. I'm looking forward to seeing if he gets anything. I think we will see a bit of youth, but it depends who we bring in, depends who we lose. If we lose a Harvey Elliott and don't replace him, perfect opportunity for James McConnell to start making his way in the team. If we lose Luis Diaz and we don't get a Rodrigo, maybe Rio and Gamoa does get his chance. And like I said, Rio and Trey Neone is another one I completely forgot about. There's a lot of talented young players in this team. Some will get loans out, but I do expect one or two of them to be integrated slowly into the team. If we don't sign another centre-back, Narlo will get his opportunity, which I don't want. I do want to see Gehi come in or another centre-back. But there's plenty of opportunity at the moment for the young lads to assert themselves. Ngamoa certainly did it against Preston. Maybe he'll do it against AC Milan. Who knows? Why would Isak go to Saudi? Look, again, no guarantee. It's just there was discussions apparently that Al Hilal could come in for him if they want to, because Newcastle, I think they've waited until we've come in with our offer, because then they've heard, oh, right, okay, 150 million pounds to sign him. We can spend that. They've waited to see what the price is to then jump in and see what's what. Isak will be a Harry Kane replacement. It's not a bad shout at all. Slot won't be relying on Ngamoa and McConnell. It's not good for them in the long term. They should be 7th choice forwards and midfielders. Our injury luck won't be as good as last season. Possibly, potentially. I'm not going to touch wood. I'm hoping the injuries are fine. I don't think he's going to rely on them. I just can see them getting a bit of game time here and there if they stick around. I think Ngamoa is someone who could have a sort of Harvey Elliott ascendancy where you get him the odd late minutes in the match, maybe a few games in the cup, like we saw last season against Accrington, where he tore them apart. James McConnell, maybe he's not trusted, but he did get a bit of game time in the Champions League last season, so much to the point where he swayed Slot's decision-making in sending him on loan to keeping him in the squad. So there's a clear pathway to them, and I don't think they're going to get relied upon. I don't think we're going to see James McConnell week in, week out on the bench or in the starting 11. Same with Rio Ngamoa, but they're options to have. They're proven that they're somewhat capable. They need to be in and around this first team to learn the way in which we play. Ngamoa is still only 16 years old. James McConnell is still very young, but is very talented. And yeah, they're not going to be starters. I wouldn't be surprised if they're on the bench most of the time. But they're there. They're there for a reason, and that's a big thing for them. It's a big push. Don't think Elliott will be at LFC start of the season. No, I don't either. I think this West Ham link has so much ground to it. It has so much depth. West Ham signing Harvey Elliott as well would be a big coup for them. And I think, I love Elliott. I think he's a very talented player, but it is his track and back. It is his running, his pressing. It does feel a bit pointless at times. He's good on the ball, good finisher. It's versatile in the positions he can play, but it's his track and back. It's his defensive output. It's his energy and work rate. It's not up to the standard of which we expect. If Jurgen Klopp was still here, I think he'd be starting week in, week out almost for us, ahead of Jones even. Slot doesn't seem to trust the way in which he plays. You can get a good fee for Harvey Elliott. It's a World Cup year coming up. He wants to force the issue into that first team, which I think he absolutely needs to, given his performances at the under-21s this summer. If he goes to a West Ham, if he goes to a Brighton, a Wolves, an Aston Villa even maybe, I think he'd thrive and he'd do a phenomenal job for them. So I'm not expecting him to stay. Oh my God, I'm itchy. We literally even got first players like Chiesa from the matchday squad last season. Midfield didn't get one injury bar mark at the end. Surprised if we don't get a big midfield injury. Again, touch wood, don't want any injuries. But no, it's true. Look, this is what I'm saying. They're not going to make the bench half the time. They're not. But I'm just saying, if we don't bring in a Rodrigo, if we don't bring in a Gehi, there is a clear path for the likes of Narlo and Ngamoa. I don't want that. I want us to sign ready-made players who are capable of rotating around Gakpo and Kanate and Van Dijk, etc. But there's an option for an Ngamoa to get the occasional game in the Cup, maybe a couple minutes in the Premier League, start giving them that experience. Same with McConnell. They're not going to make the bench half the time. They're going to be in the reserves and the under-21s or what have you. But there's a plan. There's a clear identity for these lads to walk in and work their way up. And yeah. Do you think we see any other outgoings other than Diaz, Elliott, and Nunez? So, any other outgoings? I'm trying to think of the team off the top of my head. Obviously, Diaz, Nunez, Elliott, you've said. Not particularly. I don't think there's anyone else in this team. Chiesa would probably be the one that's most likely, and I think we will lose a left back, be it Tsimikas or Robertson. I've personally made my bed, and I will lie in it, that Andrew Robertson should be the one to stay. Tsimikas should be the one to go. You'll get more money, leadership, experience, what have you. Say what you want about that. But yeah, so Diaz, Elliott, Nunez, followed closely by Chiesa and followed closely by either Tsimikas or Robertson. I would sway more towards Robertson staying, but I will not be surprised if either one who does move on. Although there has been no discussions of him going after this whole Atletico Madrid incident, where he supposedly had discussions with Liverpool about what his plan is. So I'm not sure. I think we'll let his contract run out. Yeah, they're the ones for me. Not sure if Doak stays. Could be another loan. I think if Ben Doak's going to go, I think it'll be a sale. He's another one. I'd love to see Ben Doak get his chance, especially after that Preston match, especially what he did for Middlesbrough last season. But he's one that I fully expect to be moving on, and it will not be a loan. I can't see us loaning out Ben Doak again. I think he's at the point now in his career where he's capable of... He's still incredibly young. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we have to do this, but I don't want him to fall into that Shea Yojo trap of loan. Value decreases, sell. We're getting offered 30, 35 million for him. Fine. We've got Chiesa, we've got Salah, we've got other options around. If we are bringing in a Rodrigo, brilliant. If we got Rodrigo, Rio would have Rodrigo and Gakpo ahead of him in his actual position. Can't see him getting on the bench. If so, yeah, no, I agree. Like I've said, I don't think he's going to be making the bench a lot. If we don't get a Rodrigo, there's going to be occasional games for him. But yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. Graham Potter is good on the young lads like Elliott. Good move for Elliott to West Ham. Yeah, I would have preferred him to go to a much more settled team, like a Brighton, for example. But West Ham's not a bad move for him. London, West Ham tend to go noticed in terms of players who make World Cup squads. That sounds a bit daft, but I think he's more likely to stand out in that West Ham team. It'd be a good move for him. Anywhere in the Premier League would be a great move for him. Does Gomez go? No, I don't think he does. As much as I think it's probably time to move him on, we're not in a position now to be going, right, off you go, Joe Gomez. It's the injuries that worry me, but I don't think that we're necessarily going to be pushing him out the door. If an offer comes in and we can get a Gahey or a Hato or a Belieber, someone who can come in, great. But I do not think that Gomez is going to be leaving. He is a reliable third, fourth choice if he can stay fit, and that's the big question mark. He can't really. All his injuries tend to be horrifically long ones, but if he's an option there, if he's fit, and you just need him to be a rotation, play the occasional cup game, then yeah, I don't think we're in a position now to be letting Gomez go. I would have sold him and kept Quansah personally. That wasn't until a few weeks ago when I've had a thought about it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit unsure of it. And my camera died, which is probably the right time to wrap this up, in all honesty. That was perfectly timed. Thank you all very much for watching, guys. You can see the Anfield Index logo here just before I shoot as well. Make sure that you check out our other channels. Make sure you go to our AudioPods articles at AnfieldIndex.com. There's blogs on our Substack at itwasalwaysliverpool.com. Plenty of other written articles, plenty of video articles. My video's died, so I'm going to end it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Please make sure to click like and subscribe.